teaching the Bodhisattva to make great aspiration. And obviously this key word here is about making great aspiration. And before we make aspiration, obviously we also need to understand what is it this aspiration is about. And the aspiration, it's also essential to understand because it's in the 5 spiritual roots and the powers within the 37 factors of enlightenment. Okay. So the great Bodhisattva, great vehicle Bodhisattva transform all existence with compassion. So this all existence are referring to the all the vows, the 3 vows with compassion. And obviously, as I've mentioned in the past, the door to the mind, enlightenment is through the mind, but the door to the mind is through the heart. But strangely, that how do you then open the heart of compassion? And you see, the heart just cannot just be open like that, because whatever is spoken, the mind must first be open first. So the mind got to open so that the heart can gather compassion. Then it's from the door of the heart to open up with virtues. Then we go back to the mind to tame the mind. So like oxen, they peacefully and patiently transport heavy burdens. But these burdens are the efforts we put into the practice to help transform others. So therefore, the ox cart is a metaphor and deliver all sentient beings. So with kindness, they realize impartial wisdom, and with compassion, they realize discerning wisdom. And we have spoken about this between discerning wisdom and partial wisdom for a few days now over the past 1 week. So on the Bodhisattva path, the most important quality is to have compassion, which I just mentioned earlier. Why it is important is because without compassion, the mind cannot be tamed. That's the reason why. So in addition to diligently transforming ourselves, we wholeheartedly transform others, which is the burden that we take on. So we need to impartially care for and protect all sentient beings, just like an ox, which is peaceful and patient. So this being peaceful and patient is about cultivating the path, because obviously we will face a lot of condition in our course of practice. The condition that arises not just about ours, but as you walk amongst the masses, you'll be facing the condition of others. So that's in and a lot of people, obviously the minds of the ordinary would ask, why do you then face those tiring conditions when your condition is good? So this is the part about the ox cart, that you take upon the burden of the walk among the masses. You're not taking the burden of others, but you're going to take on the burden of those conditions that you're going to face. So that is elevating the pains and suffering of others. And that this is what being have to be fearless in the practice. So is to penetrate through those conditions of suffering. So as we learn the Buddha's teaching, we must be able to withstand the challenges. And yes, as I just mentioned earlier, and then these are the challenges that we see in our life, challenges that we see in the life of others, and to take on these heavy responsibilities. So all these things refer to the manifestation of past causes of ourselves, past causes of others as well. So for the past causes of ourselves, we see in the form of becomings that fall into our life, and that's for us to learn from those lessons, right, to purify. So as we walk amongst the masses, to take on the becomings of others, or rather share their suffering so that we can alleviate the pains of others, that's a different story, because that doesn't sort of the school called, that's not your becoming, but you go in there to help to alleviate the pain on the becomings of others. So that is the growing in wisdom learning, because you learning about your own life is one thing, but learning for the life of others. So you just imagine now that you learn to purify from your life, but you also learn the becomings of other people's life. So in other words, you do not need to go through that life to learn. So imagine now that you do that, multiply it to a number of lives of others. And that is what it is that you, each one, you take on, you learn the becomings of others. So you take on the karmic lessons, learn the karmic lessons of others. So therefore, isn't that wisdom learning when you walk into that path of practice? And so in so doing, obviously, therefore, Master said the metaphor was the number, the greater the vehicle, right, the more you learn. So therefore, when we take upon that and you take on this burden, the more you transfer, the more lives that you learn from. So imagine that each one that you learn people take one life to learn that, but you take so many lives on of others to learn at the same time. So this is about growing in wisdom learning. So by giving unconditionally, that means irrespective of condition, they may be we will be filled with gratitude. So we understand that by doing this, we benefit others as much also we benefit ourselves. So therefore, we will be grateful for that reason, because their life of suffering shows you what suffering is. So you learn the Dharma from others. So therefore, we should then show our gratitude. So, but in so doing, what's more important than that we need to also understand, and that refers to yesterday's teaching as well, is about it's one appearance and one kind. And therefore, we then understand the oneness of all. And that is what the supreme joy is, because there's no line of differentiation between one to another. And the wisdom is one with the universe. There's no bounds, no balls, and no boundaries at all. And also because of that, there's no limits in our understanding. And that's what the Buddha wisdom is about, the supreme enlightenment. So the kind of wisdom that brings power and fearlessness, it doesn't matter, like I said, the condition that one is in. If we then understand this boundless wisdom of the Dharma. So freeing from hindrances, the wisdom brings freedom from obstruction. And that's nothing that hinders us in our thoughts, and also doesn't hinder us from our practice. So the lessons learned is that we have already cultivated contemplation and concentrated on the Dharma. So this cultivated contemplation and the concentration on the Dharma is yesterday's teaching. And this is about being able to, from Master mentioned about contemplation and meditation, and I mentioned that the meditation is the door to open up to contemplation because of the stillness of the mind. So therefore, our minds never be in a proper path and not be deviated by any destruction or and a wholesome distraction, and it will remain calm and stable. So this is the state of samadhi all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have. And then with that, then Master says that we then take the next step, interact with the people, and this according to the capabilities. So therefore, if you look at this sentence, it's important for us to be in the practice of samadhi, because otherwise, this is the part that I mentioned once before. When you walk amongst the masters, you serve what you know and know what you serve. And if to do that, we need to understand the state of samadhi when we serve. So we should be mindful of the Buddha's compassion with loving kindness. This is a repetition from the initials. We realize impartial wisdom, and with compassion, we exercise discerning wisdom. A short contemplation today. Wisdom is the ability to see the light of the moment in an omnidimensional way. Okay, the Master today's teaching, it mentioned about the wisdom, and if we just live a life and just our life alone, we see it as one dimension because we only learn it from our own life. But if we walk amongst the masses, you learn it from many, many lives. Number one. Number two is that we always, not just in the span of that time, but in the span of that space that we learn as well. So therefore, there is no bound, no restriction from learning that wisdom, and that is the wisdom life that we need to be in. And so doing and understand its causes in the past, the present, and future. So therefore, if we then understand, and in other words, if we live life sequentially, I live this life, then I live the next, then I would only learn what I have in this life, then I learn something else again in the next life. But we walk amongst the masses, then we learn about life at this point in time, in this space. And then we also learn at the same time, the same space and the same time of others. So, and we so do it, then we understand the causes of our past, their past, and the present. And then we apply the Dharma, we understand about the manifestation of the future, as we plant the good seeds. On relationship, also another short one, relating to this title about the aspiration. You see, aspiration inspires you because when we take on the path, Master set for us what our aspiration should be. Obviously, different people may have a different aspiration, but the goal is the same. And that's why we should set this aspiration upon us, that one that inspires us. And it's important to have this aspiration because it's part of your 5 spiritual roots in your practice. But the problem is, in a lot of times in our relationship, we have expectation. And this is what it is, especially for us living a life as a householder. We have expectation on a relationship, and expectation consumes us, because when you expect and when expectation is not met, it consumes you. And that's how sometimes anger would arise. Anger will arise, dissatisfaction will arise, and that worries, anxiety, and will upset us. So when you understand what your spiritual aspiration is, then you should then take away your expectation. So, Gan En brothers and sisters, thank you.
Yeah, Gan En so much, Brother Chin, for the